Welcome back to the Free from Wall Street podcast. My name is Steve Libman. I'm your host. And with us today, I have a good friend of mine, mentor, Don Costa. Don, thanks for taking some time and coming on the show and chatting with us and sharing a little bit of your story.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So Don and I have gone back a couple years. Don has coached us in some masterminds and helped us grow our business, our wholesale and flip business. Helped us scale from 16 deals a year to well over 15 deals a month. And that was an incredible journey. We got to go to Costa Rica together. We were in South Africa last year together doing safaris and masterminding and on different continents. So it's been amazing to get to know Don and his story. And I think, Don, probably the most impactful story that you have shared is kind of how you went through the last downturn and how you got beat up, came back stronger and smarter and wiser than ever. And that really impacted me because I think coaches need to be raw like that, right? You have to be able to share those stories of failures and what you've learned from them, because in a true mastermind setting, you're getting the wisdom of other people for your own benefit. So let's start at the beginning. How long have you been in the business? What was kind of the beginning and then the genesis, and where are you at now?
Yeah, so I've been in the business for 17 years, since 2003. I started door knocking pre-foreclosures for residential real estate, picking up properties subject to doing creative financing, renovating them and reselling them, and got really successful at it really quick. I guess my genesis, right, getting into the business took a while, took a number of years, because like most people, I was scared to pull the trigger, make a decision. There was a lot of unknowns. I didn't think that I could do it because I didn't have credit or money, and I think for people going into residential real estate or multifamily or commercial or any type of investing, sometimes that mindset roadblock gets in their way and holds them back. And I definitely was a victim of that. One day I had an opportunity and I jumped on it and started door knocking and realized I was very good at what I did and made a lot of money real fast, and let my ego get out of control, and thought everything I touched turned to gold, and just did a lot of different things in business at the same time. And in 2008 hit and crashed. And I won't give you all the details of my first round in business, because it really wasn't an example of a good business. It was just an example of a young kid making a lot of money. But 2008 hit. I didn't have the right plan. I was a horrible leader. I was over leveraged. And it was just like a slow, painful death over a couple of years, where I just kind of proceeded to go into this massive depression and lose everything. And it wasn't a good place to be. So.
Sure. Yeah. And then, so you came back. I mean, what did you do to get through those times? And then how did you start rebuilding?
Yeah. So, I mean, I spent a couple of years kind of sulking and thinking that I was destroyed by real estate, like real estate let me down. And it wasn't until I hit rock bottom. Basically, I think a lot of people on this may relate to that, in different aspects of their life. They hit kind of like the bottom of where they can handle things. And I hit rock bottom myself. And I took a self-assessment and realized that one thing I was good at was identifying what a deal was, raising private capital for it and making it profitable. And I didn't have a choice. I couldn't get a job at that time. If everybody remembers 2009, 10, 11, it was almost impossible to get hired for a job. And I had to do what I was good at. And so I kind of pulled myself up by the bootstraps, and started, creating relationships, started networking a lot, started networking with private lenders, started networking with agents and other people in the industry to find deals, and just kind of started working to build momentum. It took me about 6 months of networking to land my first deal and close my first deal, and took a couple of months to get that renovated and resold, and then I was back in the game. So as I kind of developed a business over the last few years, I realize now, looking back on it, hindsight, that real estate wasn't what destroyed me. It was not being a good leader, not being smart, not creating systems and processes, not putting the right people around me, not trusting people, and allowing myself to be a bottleneck that really let me down the first time around. Had I operated a real business, even though I didn't know what a crash looked like, no one, I don't want to say no one, but no one my age had lived through something like that. So even not knowing what that looked like, had I run a real business and had I been paying attention to my numbers and being aware of, the aspects of, what a healthy business looked like, I would have probably weathered the storm. I can't guarantee it, but I would have weathered it a lot better than I did. And just looking back, I realized, how important it is to, trust the team, build a team, have systems, have processes, have the right lenders, have just so many things in place that I took for granted the first time around.
Yeah, and I think that was the benefit for me of the mastermind too, was getting in and seeing what other people were doing and realizing, man, I have a lot to learn. I didn't know a lot of
Mhm.
what I didn't know. But what I love about it is, the smartest people I know, the most successful people I know have had similar experiences where they got their teeth kicked in and they learned from it, right? You persisted through it. It might have taken a couple of years, but at the end of the day, you got back on the horse. You fixed what the problems were. You noticed what they were, put some patches on it and said, okay, let's go try again. So lead that up to now. Where's your business at now?
So now, it's 7, 8 years since I rebooted the operation. We started out again renovating, fixing, and flipping properties. Got in a couple of years ago to wholesaling real estate as well. We do a couple hundred properties a year, roughly 130 renovations and roughly 60 wholesale transactions a year. My team got up as high as about 15 people for a while there. Now we're down to 11. We've found some efficiencies and whatnot in our operation. So, but one of the things that really made a difference now is, I took the time to build leadership in my organization, build pillars, and then I allowed them to operate within their genius zone, right, their best ability, and I stayed out of their way, and that those two things, building the right team, and getting out of the way, making sure that we have the right systems and processes is really fundamentally what's changed my business. Before, I had to make every decision. And so if I wasn't available, the decision didn't get made and my company didn't move. Now I can disappear for a month at a time and my operation still functions like it's supposed to.
Yeah. And that to me was, we had trouble building that, and we found it in the commercial space more so than we did in the residential space.
Right.
Um, but I know that it is doable. But one of the first things I recognized about myself was, man, I am not the guy who's supposed to be managing people. Like, I'm not a great leader.
Mm-hmm.
What's also good about that, though, is there's a lot of resources out there that you can, if you're in the place to go and be humble about it and fix your shortcomings, you can do that. I think a lot of people think that leaders are born, but it's just not true. It's a skill set that can be learned like anything else, right? And I definitely was the bottleneck in my business, and I certainly got in the way more than I was helping. And what I realized is it was leading to a lifestyle of a very active job, not building a real business. And when you have that aha moment, it's like, oh, I can do this. Other people have done it and gone before me. Um, so a lot of people that are listening, they might be flipping, they might be wholesaling, they might not be in real estate at all. I mean, we have a lot of doctors, lawyers, anesthesiologists that are looking to start setting themselves up for retirement. So you have an active income in that flipping business.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a couple businesses now too, right? I mean,
Right.
you also run a mastermind
Right.
for real estate people that want to grow. And tell us a little bit about that business too.
Yeah. So, so I started a podcast like, you have about 3 years ago, and just more so because I wanted to stay in my lane in real estate investing. There wasn't really a plan behind it. And it really opened up a lot of doors, a lot of opportunity, a lot of great conversations, met a lot of great people. And it just kind of developed into, um, realizing there was a need for, community out there, a need for information out there. And so, I've been working the last, year or so to kind of develop opportunities to help mentor and coach people into, a better opportunity, a better life. And then of course the mastermind community being a community. If anybody understands the mastermind, really, it's taking the best of what everybody's doing and understanding the errors that everybody's made so that you can really take the best and put it in your business and leave the mistakes aside, if that makes sense. So I get to share my mistakes with you. You get to learn from me. You get to show me what's working in your business. I get to learn from you. And it really creates a synergy and opportunity to grow your organization and also to help serve others. It's kind of like a double whammy, right? You get to chase somebody and you get to learn from, or you get to teach somebody, you get to chase somebody. So it's mastermind communities are I would attribute them to every bit of success that I've had in business and in life. And I wanted to do that. I think way back in 1994 or 5, I read Think and Grow Rich, and I wrote down that I wanted to mastermind at that time, believe it or not. And I had called it National Organization of United Minds. I remember I even named it. And it's funny, full circle, a handful of years later, I've actually started and am running a mastermind community of some incredible business people. And it's a lot of fun. And just watching people grow, being able to help and interact, knowing you got people that have your back and that are looking out for you and you can bounce ideas off is huge.
And that understand you,
They
right?
understand you.
I
Mhm.
think that one of the hardest things as somebody that thinks differently about money in general is
Right.
that you're not following along with the crowd. You're not part of the herd,
Mhm.
but you can feel like you're on an island, right? Because the rest of the world is doing life this way. And you as an entrepreneur or a passive investor are doing life this way. And that's not what we're taught in school. We're taught to go to school, get a good job, and invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. And sometimes when you buck the system a little bit, you feel like you're kind of out there on your own. And then you get into the mastermind, and those are your people, right? I mean, then you start to really build those relationships of like-minded people. And man, is the Bible not right when it says iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another?
Right.
It's just so spot on when you get to be around those people and talk about not only the struggles but the wins and
Mhm.
the accountability that comes with it, right? I know I'm
Right.
going to see you in another 3 months. Man, I know you're going to hold me to whatever I just said. So
Right.
the extra level of accountability, and I love the fact that you call it a community versus just like a mastermind group. It's, it does become like a family setting. If you're not in a mastermind, start seeking some out. I mean, when Don says it's changed his business and his life, my first Forbes article I ever wrote about was about this, how
Mhm.
mentors and masterminds change your business and your life. And I agree. All of my successes, all of the failures avoided have been attributed to just being wise, and being wise is learning from other people's mistakes. So yeah, it's good to see you guys doing that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I definitely would like to drop in on one of those meetings and see where you guys are at. And
We'll have to make that happen. Absolutely.
yeah, so moving fast forwarding on to, all right, so this is your active income. These are your jobs. What are you personally doing that maybe somebody else isn't doing to start setting up for the goal of retirement or passing on generational wealth? Because I think what we don't talk about enough is, okay, so we're making good money doing this business, and it could be in the multiple seven figures a year. But then what do we do with that money? Do we always dump it right back into our entrepreneurial business, or do we do other things with it? I know what I do in terms of investing in other syndications and things like that. But what are you doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I do a few different things, right? I mean, because I went through the last economic downturn, and it's funny because we're talking right now and right in the middle of COVID,
Right. Yeah.
which we have no idea what that impact is going to be. And if I was going to go to Vegas and put it all on a color, I'd be betting on the color that said that there's going to be some fallout here in some of the real estate industry, but
Yeah. There's no
nobody,
doubt.
yeah, nobody knows for sure. So, but because of that, I've been stacking cash. I'm not going to lie. I'm very conservative with capital. I've been stacking cash and just being kind of ready for what was going to happen. I do some, I dabble in more short-term rentals in this. I hold them for a couple of years and resell them. I do that more for the, some long-term, advantages there. And I invest here and there in different projects. I know that we invested in the storage unit project in Florida that you have. I have, a little bit of money with a project that's unrelated to real estate. I have some money and some other stuff as well. So, I kind of diversify a little bit. I'm very conservative. I ask a lot of questions.
Oh, wait, are
Yeah,
you saying you don't have a lot of money in the stock market?
I don't have any money in the stock market.
No money in the stock
So no money
market?
in the stock market.
Wait a
Uh-uh.
minute. But that's what conservative people do, isn't it?
No, come on now. So no, I don't. And part of it's because I don't understand the stock market. And I'm not one that can just like, okay, park my money and just let whatever happens to it happens to do it. I understand
I
real
don't think the
estate.
stock market understands the stock market. I
Right.
mean, the Dow Jones is up 212 points right now as we're speaking. And today, the new unemployment numbers came out. So another 3.1 million people went on unemployment, and the stock market is rallying. So in terms of market fundamentals, I don't know if they understand what the market fundamentals are. And that's why I stay out of it too, because you have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it now more than ever, it's a lot of that's dictated by algorithms,
Yeah.
and how are we going to compete
Right.
against a machine? We're just not. So,
Yeah, and what I don't like about algorithmic trading is it hits a floor and then it's like it hits a sell button,
yeah,
right? So it starts dumping, and if all these algorithmic trading platforms are hitting the same floor and then they start dumping, it creates this crash that we've seen over the last couple of months.
right.
And yeah, I agree. I don't understand it either. I do understand that sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down, and I don't know how I'm going to plan my retirement around that.
Right. I know what my odds are on the roulette wheel. So I will go
Right.
do that every once in a while. I don't know my odds in the stock market. And it's not so much just to bash it. It's just that I don't understand it. And I don't want to take
I
the time
agree.
to figure it out. I get the real estate game. I know what my exposure is. I know what my risk of loss is there. And so that's where I like to play. I will take money and put it into industries that I may not understand as well as real estate, but I understand enough to know what my risk is. And
Sure.
so, I'll do that with some money, and sometimes it's not much, I'll be like, we know somebody in the aerospace, the rocket industry, right? I put a little bit of money into that project, not a lot. It's a little, I'm not going to lie. It's not a significant amount, but if on the side that we lose it, it's not enough to really make it painful for me. But if we win, it's like such a home run. It's not even funny.
Right.
So, I'll do those every once in a while, but yeah,
But those
primarily,
are, yeah,
yeah,
those aren't retirement investments. They're like, hey, if this hits, it's going to be great. But like, I have a couple bucks in like
yeah,
cryptos too. I
right.
don't really understand it. I think eventually it will take off, but if I lose it, I'm not crying about it either.
Right.
Right.
So, and that's, yeah, but in this particular situation, if it hits, it's gonna, yeah, it'll definitely change my children's life a little bit. So, um,
Awesome.
but
I
anyway,
think I know who you're talking about too, and maybe I should call them.
you do know exactly what I'm talking about.
Wonder if
So,
that round is still open.
yeah. Uh, but primarily I stick to what I know, which is real estate and real estate investment, just because it's, you just, especially after watching 2008. I mean, one of the biggest things that I kick myself, for now is not getting back into the market earlier. Like,
Mm,
real estate's one of those things where on a good market you can make really good money, and on a bad market you can make exceptional money. And if you know how to play and you play right, and that's it's easy to win there. And I like to stay in that space.
yeah. Even in the commercial space, I think the next 2 years, I just read an article that said in the next 2 years, the CMBS loans, commercial mortgage-backed securities that are sold on Wall Street, there's about $140 billion that they expect to default over the next 2 years because of operators buying these really skinny deals and getting very high leverage at not great rates. And if their occupancy dips a little bit, then they're going to be in
Mhm.
default. I think it was Green Street Advisors that came out with that report. So I like to hear that as a buyer, right?
I
As
do
an
too.
investor,
Absolutely. Hmm.
I'm looking for new opportunity. And I think when people are talking about stock market versus industry versus real estate, I think a lot of people, they like real estate because they can touch it, feel it, drive by it. It's a tangible asset. It's not a paper asset. And I think that's why a lot of people like the idea of real estate. I think
Hmm.
that's the whole reason that HGTV exists, is because people really enjoy seeing these transformations and seeing what can happen and knowing that there's some money to be made in it. So yeah, I appreciate kind of the route that you've taken, stacking cash. If I lost a bunch of money in the last downturn, I know for a fact my mattress would be stuffed as well.
Right.
And but I think as you start to end your career, right, as you start to wind it down, you start to see the end of the road, you get more conservative. I mean, you're more aggressive
Mhm.
when you start, and when you've made some capital, you want to preserve it as much as possible. So I mean, we talked about this yesterday during our roundtable that you invited me on, which was, you asked a lot of questions about the self-storage facility before you decided to invest. And I encourage that stuff. I
Right.
encourage conservatism. I think that people need to understand what they're getting involved in. They need to understand all of the risks. What are the potential downsides? What are the potential upsides? And the only way you can do that is by asking questions. So I appreciate the fact that you spent the time to ask the questions, because I know a lot of people are on the fence and they're just going to say no to me because they're afraid to ask the questions. And I appreciate the fact that you were willing to go down the road and ask a lot of those questions because you wanted to understand the space more. As of today, by the way, we're about 15% occupied. So we are rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just got the CubeSmart report today. So cool. Well, Don, where can people reach out to you? You got the big Flip Talk sign. If you're not listening to, if you're a flipper or wholesaler, you're not listening to Flip Talk with Don, definitely go and subscribe to it now, because it is a ton of free value. I think I flipped and wholesaled for about 5 years before I started listening to other people's podcasts that were just giving me a ton of free information. And after I got enough free information from the podcast, I was like, I need to be in the room with these people. How do I get there? So where can people find you? Clearly Apple, iTunes, all that stuff for Flip Talk, but how about you personally?
Yeah, I mean, you can email me at don@fliptalk.com. I do reply to the emails. I'm all over Facebook, Instagram at the Real Don Costa. I have a group on Facebook, a couple of pages on Facebook, so you can just hunt me down on Facebook. You can, if you're interested in the mastermind community, beinthisroom.com for the Inner Circle Elite community. It is primarily based on real estate investing. But we are looking to attract people in other aspects of business that are interested in either lending to or working with or counseling or being a tax advisor to real estate investors. So the door is open to other individuals that are interested in joining, not just active real estate investors. And we're looking to build, like I said, a community that understands the direction you're going, understands the battle you're fighting, so that you're having conversations with people that truly understand, what you're going through.
Awesome. Well, Don, always a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to sit and chat with us. And I hope to see you soon, man. Be well. Be well. Tell the family I said hello, and we will chat soon.
All right. Thank you, man.
Cool.